You play Fury Warrior and you're here to whirlwind and cleave your way straight to the top of those DPS meters. Well, good news, Phase 3 of Classic Wrath will have plenty of that for you, and I'm here to help you gear that warrior out so you know which items you are or aren't looking for to maximize your damage. Before I start these gear comparisons, here's some of the details. 3-minute encounters. I also simmed as human just like the rest of the loot guides to reduce variance. If there are any other differences between faction or race, I'll make sure to note them. Spec, buffs, etc. are all optimized for the most DPS you can do. Let's start with the Helm. As a Fury Warrior, you'll be aiming to acquire both your 2 and 4 piece bonuses from your tier set this phase, and the Helm will definitely be part of that. Your Helm is also a linchpin item for your hit rating. This piece has a ton of it, and for every other piece of gear you'll be aiming for none to very little additional hit. Your Phase 2 BIS contained the much lower item level tier 8 Helm, and while it is a significantly weaker piece, it's not the smartest thing to do to drop the set bonuses immediately. It will be much wiser for you to do something like drop the tier 8 4 piece once you can equip the tier 9 2 piece. Eventually you will want to have the item level 258 tier Helm in the slot, but those tokens will be in very high demand. In the meantime, I would suggest using the tier 8 Helm for the 2 piece bonus, or you could possibly fill in the gaps with a still useful War Helm of the Champion, or maybe even the Helmet of Wrath with actually drops off the new level 80 Onyxia encounter. There is a 10-man heroic helm that drops some faction champs as well, but it's worse than all of these listed options. Just like Phase 2, your new BIS is an agility neck. The strength necks, like the new Executioner's Malice, despite being 258 item level, suffer from having hit put on them that you really don't need. It's still slightly worse than the Pendulum of Infinity from General Vezzik's hard mode. The Charge of the Demon Lord from Heroic Jaraxxus will be your best piece, but there's actually a 10-man item that pulls up virtually even with Pendulum, only 30 DPS behind your Phase 3 BIS. That Collar of Ceaseless Torment is very easy to acquire and is comparatively very strong due to having armor pen on it, whereas the others do not. Just like the Helm slot, the shoulders should be a part of your tier set, but unlike the Helms, the 245 shoulders come up as second best overall, making this a really easy choice for you. The previously BIS tier 8 shoulders are fine to use as you begin to raid TOGC for the set bonuses, but they come out being more than 100 DPS worse than anything listed here, and 3 of these are significantly worse than the tier 9 pieces. The strength emblem shoulders are not listed and are also exceptionally bad. Your best move here is probably to get a trophy and use your first 45 emblems on the 245 shoulders and pair it with another piece, preferably a 258 token, so you can get the 2-piece bonus and satisfy what is otherwise a pretty trash slot for Fury Warriors. It should be no surprise that the BIS cloak is the crazy high 272 item level cloak from the tribute chest you get from clearing the raid on Heroic without wiping a single time. You only get one of these cloaks every week you clear Insanity, and there's no guarantee that it's this one. Note that this is the agility cloak with armor pen and not the strength one. It really sucks that the strength one has hit on it. Regardless, Barissa's Dexterity for Alliance or Sylvanas' Cunning for Horde should be a top priority on your wish list, as this will last you all the way through Icecrown Citadel. Assuming you have the Faceless General Cloak from Ulduar, the only other cloak I'd consider as a stopgap option would be the second one listed here, which is the 10-man cloak option from a perfect TOGC, and that should be much easier to get than the 25-man one. The chest piece is a fine place to put a 258 tier token, not only because it is yet again your best in slot, but because it is so much stronger than what you were previously using. It is so far ahead of the tier 8 piece, probably almost 300 DPS, that pairing it with another for the 2 piece would result in a very large power spike for you. If that's not a realistic option for you, then you could possibly pick up the Jaraxxus chest as a stopgap, as it's likely to not be super contested, or just save up the 75 emblems with the trophy and get the second BIS anyway, 245 tier chest. The bracers are probably the most it depends slot in this tier. There are 3 258 item level bracers in TOGC, 1 leather, 1 mail, and 1 plate, and any of them could be BIS or very close to BIS depending on your race, faction, and current gear set. As this was simmed on a human and therefore have a bit of additional hit, the male ones come out slightly ahead. If you're a horde and playing orc, you're probably going to looking at the leather bear. It has a bit of hit rating on them, making it for that 1% lost, and any additional hit can be removed by replacing a gem or 2. If you are horde but not playing orc, then you can look into the Bone Shatter Van braces. These are still a fine choice for anybody, but since they are an expertise piece, you'll have to adjust for that stat elsewhere. The place to do that would be the boots, which I'll get to shortly. But before I do, I just want to say that if you like these loot guides and data-driven content, I'm really trying to grow this channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed or dropped a like on this video. I've got all sorts of cool stuff planned for the rest of this phase, and a whole lot more going into Icecrown. Alright, the gloves will be your off piece from the tier set, and I actually excluded the heroic tier piece here and included the previously best tier 8 gloves for comparison. Upgrading from tier 8 to any of these pieces, especially paired with a new set bonus, is obviously massive. What I do want to emphasize here is that under no circumstances should you use a 258 heroic tier token on the slot. But I didn't even show it. There are too many easy to get options that are better than to do that to yourself. If you're the unluckiest warrior in the world, you can always use the 245 tier piece with extra emblems if you need to, which is shown here. Your overall BIS are the armor pen and crit plate gloves from Ulduar and 25 heroic. However, there are a pair of leather gloves from 10-man TOGC that are really close. These assassin gloves only measure out 24 DPS behind in full BIS, and are actually itemized super well for Fury and is 100% worth running 10-man for alone. There are some plate gloves in 10-man as well, but they suffer from having hit rating on a slot you don't really want hit rating. These can be picked up and used in a pinch if you could use it, and they're still better than the tier 8 gloves regardless. This is probably one of the lowest priority item slots for Fury Warriors. Ideally, this would be one of our expertise pieces, and there are two here. The Soul Devouring Cinch from 10-man Ulduar maintains its strength and is less than 30 DPS behind the new BIS belt. You likely already have this, and if you don't, you can grind out dungeons to buy it with the new currency. There's very little excuse to use anything but that, or the heroic Bloodbath belt, which is just your upgraded expertise option that drops from Draxus on 25 heroic. This is the last of the tier pieces we will use, and combined with the rest will complete the 4-piece bonus for tier 9. However, you have to be very careful when to actually equip the tier piece, as these things have a huge amount of expertise on them. You'll likely have to have found upgrades or alternates for both your gloves and bracers from phase 2 to use these. Until then, you'll probably be using the old Yogg 25 leg guards of Cunning Deception. While there are stopgap pieces here for you between the Yogg pants and your final BIS, it's either unlikely or not particularly smart of you to try to pry the mail pants away from hunters or the plate pants away from the Death Knights, especially since they're not huge upgrades for you and are phase BIS for them. Alright, so we're at the boots, but like I was talking about earlier when we were at the bracers, this slot can be variable. There are two options here, the plate boots with expertise and the leather boots with hit. While simmed on a human, the plate expertise ones are best, but it's entirely possible if you're playing Horde that the expertise bracers and these leather hit boots are BIS instead. This also depends on if you can afford to add more expertise at whatever your current gear set is at. Both these options are close to each other no matter the faction. If you're Alliance, prefer the plate ones, and if you're Horde, prefer the leather ones. Really though, I'd suggest using whatever you can obtain first, and then adjusting your bracer usage or other expertise pieces with it. There are two new BIS rings in TOGC as we move on up from the two Algalon rings in Ulduar. Brand's Signet Ring, which is from the Algalon 25 quest item, still holds up very well, and is definitely still worth using, but it very slightly loses out to the Callous Aggression and Violent Temperament ring. The Sealing Ring from 10-man Algalon, however, can be freely replaced by a few more options. There are two rings in 10-man TOGC that are worth considering. The Planestalker Signet is an agility ring that drops from Draxus and is slightly better than Gormok's Band, which is a strength ring that drops from Beast. Big surprise, Death's Choice or Death's Verdict is your new #1 trinket. Everyone wants this, and Fury Warrior is no exception. Keep in mind, Mjolnir Runestone is still BIS, so whatever other trinket you're running should be paired with that. If you still don't have it, you can buy it with essences from Heroic Dungeons now. Previously, your phase 2 BIS was Comet's Trail, which would now be replaced if you ever actually got that trinket. It performs almost 140 DPS worse than Death's Verdict. This is a huge upgrade over a Darkmoon card, but if I'm being honest, it's likely a bigger upgrade for a few other specific classes, especially if you're rocking a Comet's Trail or potentially a Dark Matter. So good luck with this. Ranged weapons are simply stat sticks for warriors, and honestly none of these provide a meaningful difference. Swirling Blades was phase 2 BIS, and if you never got them, can now be bought for 15 essences. There are only 2 upgrades this tier, and they are very small ones at that. The rest are not worth bothering with. It is very unlikely that you'll walk into a 25-man tribute chest gun anytime soon, and even then it's not overall BIS, which is the Talon Strike or Death's Head Crossbow for Horde. So if you happen to get that, then great, but I wouldn't put it high on your priority list. Before everyone loses it on me, disclaimer with the weapons. These are simmed with single replacements on the main hand. Only one weapon replaced, not both. It had to be this way because Catastrophe or Grievance has a huge amount of expertise, and Decimation or Flesh Render has a huge amount of hit. These 3 weapons, along with Voldrathar, are the weapons you should be focused on for phase 3. If you don't have double Voldrathars, they are absolutely still worth killing hard mode Vezix for in Ulduar. The Justice Bringer or Dual Blade Butcher for Horde drop from faction champs and are simply an upgraded version of Voldrathar. You'll want 2 of these, so good luck on your drops. The other 2-handers are very situational. While you can use them, I would only take one if you don't have both Vezek swords. The DPS difference shown here is with the absolute most optimal setup you can get with them. The massive amount of expertise or hit gain would require a lot of movement on other pieces in your gear setup to make it work. That's it. If you have any questions, drop them below in the comments or come by on Twitch, link below in the description to catch me live. If you like the sort of content and want to help support this channel, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.